Hello and welcome to episode 3 of CTB Tyre Talks, where we interview some of the leading figures and voices across the truck and agricultural tyre sectors. Today's episode sees David Wilson, the publisher of Commercial Tyre Business, interview the managing director of Marangoni SpA, Vittorio Marangoni. Marangoni are a worldwide leader in the tyre retreading industry thanks to their tyre retreading materials and machinery that they offer to other retreaders, but also through their retreaded tyres that are sold to the fleets themselves. Besides this, Marangoni also retread OTR tyres as well, further showcasing their extensive product portfolio. Now, let's get stuck into our interview with Vittorio Marangoni.
For the latest edition of our podcast series, we're delighted to be able to welcome Vittorio Marangoni, the CEO of the Marangoni Group. Now, there are many topics that we could talk to Vittorio about, but today we thought it would be particularly interesting to talk on a more general level about the macro trends that are affecting the tyre industry in general and the wider challenges that these trends are bringing for the retreading industry in particular. So I'm really looking forward to an interesting and stimulating conversation. So with that in mind, good afternoon, Vittorio, and welcome.
Hi, David, and thank you very much for this opportunity. It's a pleasure being here.
Okay, well, we've got a lot of ground to cover today, so let's get straight down to it. And let's begin with a general overview of the overriding tyre industry trends in the EU and how they're impacting on the tyre manufacturing sector. So what for you are the key trends within the European tyre industry at the moment?
Okay, so, it's a quite interesting topic, this, and, we have to consider that the situation right now in the European tyre industry, it's pretty bad, as you can probably imagine. Just at the beginning of this year, it was announced that 8 factories of tires production will be shut down in Europe. And that's quite a huge number, because you have to consider that just in Germany there is a total of 12 factories, and in Italy, for example, just 6. So it's a big number, and it's only equal to the number of factories that are now opening in Asia. So actually, it's my opinion that the European tire industry has basically lost the war against Asia. The reason for that are many, and it starts, of course, from the poor competitiveness of the production cost in Europe, which is further penalized by wars and sanctions, which have recently doubled the cost of raw materials for Europe. And even, let's say, European regulation and bureaucracy are not helping and making the situation even worse, because all these rules, of course, applies on European company, but doesn't have any jurisdiction outside the territory. So is a problem just for EU company. From the other side, if you look at the Asian front, there are also elements that does not help. First of all, we have a huge overcapacity in tire production. And it started from China, but then Chinese, to overcome duties imposed on many markets, they decided to build a new factory in other Asian countries, increasing again this overcapacity. So, the pressure for that is very heavy on every market in the world. And, for Europe it's even worse, because if you consider that Europe is one of the less protected markets, we have duty just on TBR and just versus China, which are quite, that has no effect, because, of course, they have moved the production outside. And, when other countries like US in this moment rise duty also on the other Asian country, all this volume get moved to the European market. So in Europe, the pressure of this overcapacity is even worse.
Okay, so what would you say are the main effects of this situation on the market? You've talked about it a bit, but perhaps you could expand a little on that.
Yeah, well, let's say the numbers are pretty clear. And finally, the result is that taking, for example, the replacement market for TBR, we can see that the local tire production in 2018 was around 60% of the replacement market. And well, now is less than 37%. And actually, the two-thirds of the market is made of import, mainly from Asia. So, well, this is a pretty bad pictures, and you have also to add the recent automotive crisis, with just in the 2024 brought a further loss on the original equipment of TBR of 22%. So, well, this is represent what does it mean the industrialization process, I think, of Europe. But you have also to consider that the reason for that is also guided by the fact that Asian producer does not follow free market logic. You know, they are driven by industrial policy which are aimed to conquer our markets and to dominate economically and strategically our countries. So, and they do that with aid, subsidy, and well, other benefit. So it's not a fair competition, and we cannot compete with who doesn't want to compete. But from the other side, of course, this kind of attacks are targeted just on strategic industry, such as steel, automotive, and of course, tires. But retrading is not one of those. They do not consider strategic retrading. So, well, I mean, we feel the pressure anyway because of cheap new tires, but we are not their enemy. And this is a good news. And I think that for once, retrading is not in the worst position.
Okay, so let's talk a little about the role of the European institutions in helping to push the sustainability agenda. What are the main areas in which the European institutions are active at the moment, particularly with regards to green policies?
Yes, well, I would like to start, first of all, and it must be said, from the fact that European institutions are doing absolutely nothing to protect this invasion of the industry and to, let's say, prevent the deindustrialization of Europe. And like I said before, the extension of TBR, the duty on TBR from China is totally ineffective. What they are doing, it's a lot of unnecessary regulation that just complicate the situation and add cost only to European companies. So, of course, part of this regulation are the green policy, and the green policy, they should help, but at the end of the day, they just make only the situation worse. One just to give some example with the focus on the retrading. So, like, first of all, start from the labeling. In 2012 has been introduced the labeling regulation for tire, which it's used to determine the performance in terms of rolling resistance, noise, and wet grip of a tire. Soon after that, of course, they started the discussion to introduce the same labeling also on retread tires. But the process gets stuck and is still stuck. And this is a huge penalty for retreading, as it comes other regulation like taxonomy, which of course it should recommend the correct sustainability practice for every product, and also for tires. And it says that tires, well, must be new or retreaded with a low rolling resistance. but you cannot say that you have a low rolling resistance on a retreaded tire because you don't have the labeling. So actually, retreaded tires are completely excluded from the correct sustainability practice, which is crazy, but it's like that. And I can make several other examples on this topic. For example, you have the same issue on public tenders, where of course they require tires with low rolling resistance. We can have a retread tire with low rolling resistance. We have demonstrated, but we cannot say it because it's not allowed to say it. So we are automatically excluded. And this is crazy because it would be the best sustainability solution. Same things is going to happen with the introduction of the emission trading systems on road transportation, which of course will put a lot of focus on fuel consumption because you will have to pay CO2 quota on fuel consumption. But again, you can, of course, made a retread tire with low rolling resistance, but you cannot say it. And that's one, but there are many other things, of course, that are not helping. Another, I think, big cases is the one of EUDR, so the European Deforestation Regulation, which has been postponed to 2026, but it's pretty crazy because it's still very unclear. And it says that for everything that contains rubber and it's imported in Europe, you have to certify the coordinates of every tree of rubber, of natural rubber, that you use to make that kind of product. And well, this is pretty crazy and pretty useless at all. But the worst things is that they do not say nothing about circular economy. So when you have to retread a tire or when you produce some recycled material, you should do the same, which is quite impossible exercise in traceability. And well, moreover, it's totally meaningless because you are basically saving a waste. So why you should certify the tree of rubber? Well, and of course, again, there are several other things like that, like the extended producer responsibility schemes, which are a mess in Europe. Every country has a different system, and at the end of the day, most of them doesn't even consider retreading in the life cycle of a tire. And again, many other examples, but just to give you a picture, I think that those is enough.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how, in your view, should the retreading industry react to these developments in the best interest of the sector?
Well, we are actively working on all these issues every day. But I think we cannot do everything alone. And the point is that we must make our voice heard because retreading is the best thing you can do for a tire. And we know we are right, we know we are doing the right things, but the problem is that we have to explain it and to make the institution understand. And I mean, this is a call for action. So I need everyone to take action. We cannot do this completely alone. And well, believe me, because I think that regulation, if guided in the right way, they really can turn into a great opportunity for retreading.
Okay, so next I'd like to focus in more closely on what retreaders can do in general to improve their prospects within the market and what Marangoni is doing in this regard also. So perhaps we could begin by dealing with the age-old compromise between quality and price. So which of these, in your view, is the most important, would you say, and why?
Yeah, well, okay. Let's say you're right. The point is not what retreaders can do, but yeah, what Marangoni is doing, because I would like to remember that first of all, we are retreader, And this is the hardest part of our business. And I'm really happy to share the pain with every other retailer. And so yes, you're right, quality or price, which is better. I know that this is a very old discussion, but I think that this is also still the point. So what we are doing, well, we are investing a lot, and we are investing in our process, not just to make it more efficient, not just to have more flexibility, but most of all, to increase quality. Because quality is a key issue on a retread tire. I just want to make clear the point. You have always the same issue on the market. They say, well, the new tire costs like a retread tire, so why I have to buy a retread tire? But it's stupid, this kind of way of thinking, because a tire is a tire. A retread tire is black, rounded, makes the jobs. And so the point is, I have a retread tire which makes more kilometers than a new tires and has the same price. So answer to me, why you would buy the tire which make less kilometers at the same price? So the point is that you have to overcome the quality issue. So when you overcome this discussion, of course, you already won, because a retread tire has always a best compromise between cost per kilometers, So of course, to do that, you need good quality materials. I know it's more expensive, but you're not doubling the price of the final product, but you are doubling the mileage. So again, your advantage is on the cost for kilometers. So this is good to have more competitive advantage. And same reason also good looking is important, because again, quality is important also in perception. The first things a customer wants from a tire is to be safe. So if you have a good looking tire, of course, he thinks it's a tire which is safe. If you have a bad looking tire, even if it is perfect, but the sidewall is ugly, he thinks that that tire is not safe. And so it will make, of course, life harder. So that's the reason why, of course, we have converted almost all our production into B2B retreading. Then, for the same reason, on-field activity is very important. As you know, many customer doesn't have an accurate control of their performance, of the performance of the tire, of course. And so if you help them to measure what are the performance of the tires, probably they can understand that retread tires, of course, is more convenient. So help them on the field. This is very important.
Okay, so what would you say are the other added value benefits that can be gained from retreading?
Yeah, of course. There are, let's say, many other things, many other competitive advantage that can be, let's say, find into a retread tire, into retreading in general. And it's very important to use every weapon to be competitive on the market. So what else are we doing? Let's say main things. Well, first of all, it's also quite dull things, but still very effective, is the long tail market. So there are niche applications where new tire manufacturers are not interested because volume are too small. But through retreading, of course, you can customize better the product and find some niche application on, well, for example, winter application, off-road application, or port application, where a retread tire can perform better. Another important topic is distribution of new tire. And I think that right now, this thing, it's Well, one of the main issue of the changement of the market, because it's not just selling some new tire, also, to promote retreadable tire and to fuel retreading business. But as a matter of fact, that today is an opportunity to, let's say, find Asian retreadable tire. And that's not only because Asian tire are more convenient, but because, of course, Asian tire are conquering the market. So we have to, of course, build our future on that, because probably in the future there will not be any other tires. So, as a matter of fact, we have to consider that duties which were imposed versus China forced them to move their production outside China, in other Asian countries. And to do that, they have built new factories with new machineries, with more modern process. And at the end of the day, they are making a better quality. So many of them are started to be retreadable. And this is a very good news for retreading, because I think it will, let's say, make the future of retreading. And well, of course, to catch this opportunity, you must be independent, but we already did this discussion, which is better to float on a small boat than to sink on the big ship. Well, and last but not least, of course, sustainability value. It's quite important, but not just blah, blah, blah. What I mean is to supply a sustainability value to our customer, which means give them numbers, certification, things that they can use not just to reduce their environmental footprint, but also they can use it on a sustainability report, or on public tenders to get higher score, so to be more competitive.
Okay, so we've talked about a very wide range of issues today. What would you say are the conclusions that we should draw as an industry to make sure we make optimum use of the opportunities that are being offered to us at the moment?
Well, let's say retreading industry has already existed for 100 years, So if we have come this far, we will make it true. And let's say, especially in Europe, things like reuse and remanufacturing, which means retreading in tire industry, are getting increasingly important topic. And retreading is a quick goal, because you don't have to develop a new product. You don't have to find new solution. You just have to push on a supply chain that already exists, and it worth 1.6 billion in Europe. And it makes 4 million TBR tires, which is 1/4 of the replacement market. And well, besides, the potential is enormous, because in Europe, just the 8% of total tire, let's say, are retreaded right now. So it can grow a lot, this system. Other things interesting for the future are the development in technology like IoT. So, RFID will make better traceability. The TPMS, which now are mandatory on all new truck, will preserve better the tire, and so that means better casing to be retreaded. And introduction of electric vehicle, which has an increased weight, will means that they will have to use stronger tire, and so at the end of the day, better casing for retreading. And even sustainability regulation, as I said, they can turn into a great opportunity, but as a matter of fact, they are changing from measuring qualitative objective to more, let's say, quantitative numbers. And on that playfield, retreading has already won, because we have very huge number in the environmental impact. And let's say huge saving, that I mean. And well, at the end of the day, like I said, retreading can be done also on Asian tire, and so even if tires will no longer be produced in Europe, we will continue to retread tire, and this price war will end. Asian will wish to have higher prices, and retreading will become more competitive. But right now, well, we need the contribution of everyone to raise awareness among European and local institutions about retreading benefit. But anyway, I think that we still have all the card to play, and we can do a good job for the future of retreading.
Perfect. Well, thanks very much for your insights, Vittorio. The topics we've talked about today lie at the very heart of the retreading industry, and the industry needs to deal with it if it's going to take optimum advantage of the opportunities that it's presented with, in my opinion. So this is a subject we could talk about for ages, and indeed, I believe it's incumbent upon the leaders within our industry to get to grips with these issues and work together for the benefits of the whole sector. Unfortunately, however, we've run out of time for today, but we'll definitely return to this topic in the future, and we look forward to inviting you back on one of our podcasts in the near future.
Thank you very much, David, and so see you soon again.
That's it for episode 3 and our interview with Vittorio Marangoni. Join us very soon for episode 4 of CTB Tyre Talks. In the meantime, be sure to check out our weekly video news reports with commercial tyre business correspondent Ewan Scott, which are published on this YouTube channel. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.